Of course. And so the curtain rises on the 21st edition of the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Hello and welcome to the 2026 SICMF from wherever you may be joining us. We're coming to you live once again from outside the Enler Concert Hall in Stellenbosch, South Africa. I'm John Woodland and I'm thrilled once again to be your host for the next 10 days of what we like to call chamber music magic. As always, there's a wonderful sense of anticipation here in the Stellenbosch Conservatorium. Musicians have been rehearsing all day, students have been arriving from across South Africa and beyond, and in just a few minutes' time we'll be opening another chapter in the story of what has become Africa's premier classical music festival. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, and if you're one of our regular viewers from previous years, welcome back. Over the next 10 days, we'll be bringing you all 10 evening concerts right here from the Enler Hall, the first 7 of which feature our international faculty artists in chamber music performances, and the final 3 showcase the achievements of our student orchestras. This year, musicians from more than 20 countries have converged right here on Stellenbosch, a place where internationally acclaimed performers, emerging young artists, teachers, students and audiences come together in a spirit of curiosity and artistic adventure. Across these 10 days, we will hear no fewer than 10 South African premieres, a world premiere by the South African composer Owen Dalton, and masterpieces from the standard chamber repertoire. And so what better way to begin this year's first faculty concert at 8 o'clock than with music by one of the most performed living composers in the world today, Philip Glass. And we look forward to his second violin concerto, also known as the American Four Seasons, tonight with much-loved faculty violinist Daniel Rowland. And so as we whet your appetite for that concert, it seems appropriate to look back at the opening of last year's SICMF, in which Daniel played Max Richter's reimagining of Vivaldi's masterpiece. And here now is the opening sequence entitled Spring. setting the scene for this evening's first faculty concert by looking back at last year's. That was Daniel Rowland playing the opening of the Four Seasons recomposed by Max Richter, to pique your musical palate for Philip Glass's second violin concerto that kicks off tonight's concert at 8 p.m. And so last year, this festival turned 20, and as you may know, one of the first official events of this year's SICMF was the screening earlier this evening of a brand new documentary entitled Beyond the Music, filmed during last year's Milestone Festival and exploring the world of the SICMF behind the scenes. Now, this film was directed and edited by filmmaker Devet van Rooyen, and I'm delighted that Devet joins me now, and I believe you've been traveling non-stop almost over the last 24 hours to be here in time for the festival opening.
I've just come back from the Philippines. So I'm currently on quite a different time zone. It's like 4 a.m. for me right now.
Was that official filmmaking business?
I wish I could. No, that was purely for joy, for holiday, yes.
Well, a balance is so important, and I think one of the big themes that came across in your video film was about the joy that this festival inspires in its students, amongst its faculty. Can you give us a bit of the backstory? How did this project come about?
So we did a previous installment in 2014, which was titled Behind the Music. We were commissioned by Nina and Peter to do that documentary then. And so Nina made contact again early in 2025 to see if we could maybe do the 20th anniversary documentary. And of course, there's a little bit of a backstory to our personal journey with that documentary. It was the first documentary that we did officially as our company. So it was a Weird Films, yes. So it was a complete full circle moment for me as well to come back 12 years or 11 years later and then do this, yes.
Was Nina quite specific about her brief, or did she give you a kind of blank check?
No, not quite. We discussed some of the themes that she wanted to have come across in the documentary, and two of them were quite prominent, and I hope that you saw it earlier this evening.
Exactly.
One was community, and the other was full circle. Right. So that was when we kicked off last year with the 10 days. Those were the two things I was focusing on hard, and trying to mine in those 10 days those themes.
How do you bring those themes across to make sure that you're able to address them? Because so much of what we do here is so ephemeral. It's heard, it's felt.
Yeah. So you start off, and it's completely explorative. You don't really know what you're going to get, so you latch on to stories that you feel might actually go somewhere, and I guess then it's a bit of triage. This looks like it might develop into a nice 3-act structure, and you kill this darling, perhaps, because you can only focus on so many things to fit into a 56-minute documentary. The actual initial brief was 24 minutes, and it was just impossible to get it down to that. And while you do that throughout those 10 days, make a mental list of the themes that you're trying to develop, or at least the sub-narratives. That's how you bring it all together with the interviews, and like the one I did with yourself at that point.
Because there were these amazing threads and the juxtaposition of the music and the rehearsals and the interviews. It came across to the viewer as if it were, well, of course it was spontaneous, but there was such a clear sort of thread and narrative. It was very, very compelling.
Thank you. And of course, you generate so much footage during that time.
How much would you say? Because you seem to be very busy during last year's festival.
8 terabytes of footage, which translates
hours
to, hours and hours. So you end up with a lot of content, and of course a lot of it doesn't make it into it. So you can actually cherry pick just the best stuff.
Yes.
and hopefully we got to exhibit just the best of what the SICMF is.
Were there any surprises for you over that process?
There were some surprises, one of which we couldn't actually include. Won't go into that. But the main challenge, I think, is just to keep tabs of all of the different stories that are happening at the same time and making sure that you have those little follow-ups to bring it all together in the end.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a wonderful process, but it's obviously extraordinarily exhausting by the end of those 10 days to you need a holiday for that in itself.
The sense of continuity is important because another thing that came through in the film for me was this incredible relationship that's built up between the audience and the faculty amongst themselves and the faculty and students, and the way you were able to tell so many of those stories through those cameos and watch the evolution maybe of some of the students, for example, Valse, for example, with a new bassoon, and then getting to try it out with Bram, the faculty bassoonist, and then some footage of her performing in the faculty orchestral concerts.
That one in particular developed into a beautiful 3-act structure. Her receiving the bassoon, her with Bram, and then the masterclass in the end. So you look for exactly that kind of thing, and you latch onto it hard once you find it. So
You collected a lot of that material last year at the festival. It's now a year later that we watched this. Fantastic to have it in the end. There was popcorn. The students had their SICMF branded popcorn boxes. I think breaking the rules for the very first time. Normally no food and drink in a concert hall, of course. But did it take much of the past year to mine all that footage and to...
I think the post-production...
Did it emerge quite rapidly once you collected all the material?
I think the whole post-production period was around 3 months, so not all that long. But then you leave it and you come back to it, and then you refine, and you come back and you refine.
But like a piece of music in a way, perhaps.
Perhaps, yes.
It requires that sort of nurturing, coming with a fresh mind,
exactly.
Care and attention.
Yes, because it's a completely subjective process for you who is if you're in it. So you need some distance, and so a year to have let it bake in the oven was that was ample time.
And Nina, as artistic director, seemed very pleased, very moved, very touched by the documentary.
She came over to my house to watch it the first time, and
so?
When she was, I don't want to say inconsolable, but she was moved by it. At the end, I figured we had gotten something special.
Because once again, so much of what happens at this festival is intangible. It's sort of felt or thought.
It is.
And so to be able to set it down in such in many ways, a physical form, this incredible testament to what has been achieved over the last 20 years is remarkable and so important. Telling that story that might otherwise just remain in the heads and hearts of those who've been here.
For me, it was an amazing privilege, obviously, to actually, I feel like I had this special view on the festival because I get to be in the practice rooms, I get to be in the rehearsals, and I get to be in all of it.
It's a privileged perspective.
Absolutely. So I feel like I had a really privileged position to observe the festival from, and I love classical music myself. I mean, I play piano, so.
So you come with that sensitivity already,
exactly.
which.
So it was an extra layer of enjoyment for me.
And there was a very touching moment, the screening that we had just an hour and a half ago now in the Endler, in which at the end of the film, fantastic applause from everyone who's gathered there, and then Nina brought you up on stage and introduced you. So again, sort of bringing everything full circle in a way, beyond the music, the face, well, you representing your team behind the film. What of the film now then? Is it ultimately going to be available
we actually
online?
Just discussed possibly taking it to some film festivals. We are probably going to take it to Woordfeest.
Excellent.
But that's, it's a bit speculative right now, so I'm hoping this isn't the last screening. But it'll eventually be made available online.
because this is such a valuable story you've told and have recorded, and we need to amplify the brilliant work that is done at this festival to ensure its sustainability. So, and you've been very busy as well. We've seen you at the City Hall recently, filming some of the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra's concerts.
Yep, that's working with Adrian Fuchs on that. Yeah, it's just a continuation of this passion that I have for classical music. So.
And building our ecosystem here in Cape Town, Stellenbosch, South Africa.
It's wonderful to be a part of that, yes.
Well, welcome back. So glad you could be here for the screening this evening. Very, very special. As it kind of wraps up then, as you said, full circle, the first 20 years of the festival. What an appropriate way then to start this 21st year. A real coming of age, as Peter mentioned a little bit earlier at the festival opening. So thank you, Devet. Very grateful that you could be here.
Lovely. Thanks, John.
So setting down the story of the SICMF on film is a beautiful reminder for all of us that this festival is about so much more than just the performances that we see on stage and are about to see on stage. It's also about, as Devet mentioned, community, mentorship, friendship, the transformative power of music. And so speaking of which, let's listen now to one of the most emotive pieces in the orchestral repertoire. This is the slow movement from the Fifth Symphony by Gustav Mahler that has famously been described as a love letter to his wife. And it was performed in last year's SICMF by a very special alumni orchestra that was assembled to celebrate 2 decades of music making and sharing here in Stellenbosch. Jacobus de Jager conducts this performance. And so welcome back to this live stream coming to you from outside, or rather now inside, the Endler Hall in Stellenbosch. I'm John Woodland. I'm delighted that you're joining us tonight. Let us know where you're listening from and what you're most looking forward to at this year's SICMF. And so this first faculty concert now spans 150 years of musical history. We begin with the South African premiere of Philip Glass's second violin concerto, subtitled The American Four Seasons. It was written in 2009 and was conceived as a companion piece to Vivaldi's famous cycle, but with a Glassian twist. The composer and the soloist disagreed about which movements represented which seasons, and so Glass simply left them unnamed, allowing you, the audience, to decide for yourself. And then after the interval tonight, we move to another South African premiere, Maurice Ravel's dazzling Valse, presented here in a new arrangement for string, Nonet. And then tonight's concert concludes with one of the great examples of programmatic music, Paul DUKAS's The Sorcerer's Apprentice, immortalized by Walt Disney's Fantasia and featuring what must surely be the most famous enchanted broomstick in classical music. If you've just joined us, welcome. We're inside the Endler Hall here at the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. And this is the first faculty concert that's kicking off now at 8 o'clock South African time, just waiting for the final student participants to be seated, everyone to get comfortable, and then we welcome a fairly large ensemble on stage for this American Four Seasons, the second violin concerto by Philip Glass, with Daniel Rowland, our faculty violinist, as soloist. It's already been a busy first day here at the SICMF. Earlier this afternoon, we enjoyed performances by the Stellenbosch University Percussion Ensemble and the Cape Town Philharmonic Youth Orchestra's Clarinet Quintet, and a piano masterclass with Emanuel Ivanov. And over the coming days, I'll be telling you more about the masterclasses, the workshops, the student ensemble concerts, and the conversations that feature many of our visiting artists. There's always a special energy just before that downbeat, so to speak. The very beginning of a new SICMF this year, the 21st anniversary of this fantastic festival. A coming of age, everyone is describing this year's festival as. Last year we celebrated 20 years, 2 decades, but this now is the big party. 21 years. You'll notice the lights have been dimmed in the Endler Hall. Quite an unusual arrangement. Lots of strings on stage, and then on center stage, in center stage, a synthesizer. For a composer like Philip Glass, he disliked the title or the description, the comparison as a minimalist composer. He liked to think of himself as a composer of music, of repetitive structures, and you'll hear that in this piece this evening. Remember, it's subtitled The American Four Seasons. It's up to you to decide which seasons are summer, autumn, spring, or winter. But there's a prologue, various movements, various songs, as he's called them. And here are our players, our faculty, some students comprising this very first faculty concert at the 2026 SICMF in this very first work. The Violin Concerto No. 2 by Philip Glass. A very, very warm reception. So many familiar faces there on the stage. Those who've been supporting this festival for many, many years. And it's really a treat to welcome them back. Peter Grobler on the synthesizer. Extra music stand. Ready for our soloist, Daniel Rowland. Thank you, Lower Strings, for facilitating that elegant stage rearrangement. Here with bated breath. Our soloist didn't lose his way to the end before. Daniel Rowland, greeting his ensemble, greeting the audience here in the Endler Hall, and launching officially now the first faculty concert of the 2026 SICMF. Thank you very much for joining us, and enjoy this first work by Philip Glass. thrilling start to the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, coming to you live from the Endler Hall, Stellenbosch, South Africa. Daniel Rowland in a masterful performance of the second violin concerto by Philip Glass, his unmistakable driving rhythms and harmonic shifts beautifully embodied by that guest appearance from the Figure of Eight Dance Theatre Company. Welcome back to the SICMF. May not be the last time we see them this evening. And hearty congratulations to the rest of the ensemble. You saw Daniel congratulating his wife, Maya Bogdanovic, cellist, and then Miriam Helms-Olien. She was leading the ensemble as the first violinist. Peter Grobler performing on the synthesizer. I'm glad I didn't have to play those perfectly even quavers or whatever they were in the left hand in that quasi-harpsichord sounding passage. But there we have the first half of this evening's first faculty concert. That piece was subtitled The American Four Seasons, and I think you can also see why it's earned that nickname, not just being a reference to Vivaldi's work and indeed this wonderful sort of symmetry. We started last year's SICMF with Max Richter's recomposed Four Seasons, and so very appropriate to start this 21st SICMF with another take on the Four Seasons. But all the colors that one expects from the seasons embodied in the varied movements of that work performed by Daniel. Always such a joy to watch him play so passionately, so expressively. One might almost think he were a dancer himself. And really, what is the difference between music and dance? Just similar manifestations of passion and the same things that we're trying to express through art. Well, that's it for the first half of this faculty concert. I'm going to head outside for my interval interview with Karen Hendrickson, the faculty conductor. So don't go away, grab something to drink. Thanks for joining us tonight for this live stream, and I'll see you in just a few minutes. So that's and welcome back to the foyer of the Endler Hall for the stream coming to you live from the 21st Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Now, my guest this evening is making her South African debut at this year's festival. She's conducted orchestras, including the London Symphony Orchestra, the various BBC orchestras. She's passionate about empowering children through music and creativity and exploring the intersection of leadership and creativity. And tonight she shares conducting duties in the second half of our concert. So thank you for being game for this chat now. It's a great pleasure to welcome our faculty conductor this year, Karen Hendrickson.
Thank you very much, John. Happy to be here.
Karen, we were just saying now, it's a bit sort of overwhelming for you to also be on this live stream on the first night. This is your first 24 hours in South Africa still.
That's right.
Acclimatizing, adjusting. What's
okay.
going through your mind?
Might as well jump right in with all the things. It's absolutely fine.
And as a conductor, I suppose you're best equipped to
fairly
handle
used,
all of those
fairly used
stimuli.
To that, for sure. No, it's been a wonderful 24 hours. I've been welcomed so warmly to the festival. I especially loved flying into Cape Town. I saw the mountains as I was coming in, and it just really took my breath away. I love being outside and out of doors, and although I have music in front of me, I was really thinking, I wonder if I can fit in a hike at some point.
I'm sure there'll be a chance. And
So-
here in Stellenbosch, there's so many opportunities just to escape, even if it's a short walk.
I would love that. So
How did it come about, the engagement at this festival?
I think it's what happens in our profession. A lot of things happen word of mouth, which is, from my understanding, I haven't been told, but I don't know anyone specifically at the festival, but somebody reached out to a mentor of mine, and that mentor recommended me onto the festival, and here I am, extremely happy to be here.
And was it a no-brainer? Were you familiar with the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, the kind of work that goes on here? It's quite an unusual model for a festival in a way, that there's a strong educational component besides the faculty concerts.
I think it really is a one-of-a-kind festival. I knew loosely about the festival, but I didn't know sort of the core system that runs the festival, the engine that really drives everything that goes on. When I looked at the schedule, 14 or 15 pages of just blocks for everybody. There's very little white space. I was so taken by the performance that I just heard of the Glass Four Seasons to know that the leaders are professional, but the rest of the majority of the ensemble are made up of students, which is just phenomenal to see them after only sort of a day and a half of rehearsal. And it just has fueled my excitement, really.
Right, yeah. Many of those students, though, really real friends of this festival. I mean, not unlike people like Daniel and Maya, who keep coming back year after year. So community seems to be a very special buzzword about this festival.
Well, I think you feel that in the hall. You feel like everybody's coming to celebrate together, and that's really special. They're not just coming to hear the music, but they're coming to really engage with each other, whether they're sitting in the audience or sitting on the stage.
So even as someone coming to this festival on the first day, that sentiment has been palpable already?
100%. The audience is so attentive. This is something that really struck me, is that the instant the orchestra walked out, Daniel had a few moments where he didn't come out immediately. And so, but the audience was already completely focused. And I thought, this is an amazing audience. You don't often find that even in some European audiences where there's a lot of sort of fussing about, but it was just an extremely audience ready to hear, which I think
appetite.
Yes, which I think any audience member that comes for the first time, like this is my first time to the festival, just know when you sit in the hall, it's a shared passion for listening to the thing that's going to be gifted to them, and that's a really special environment. It's something you don't get by watching a concert on YouTube or streaming Spotify. Being in the hall, that aliveness is just fantastic.
And in many ways, chamber music is the epitome of that kind of equal collegiality, communication, listening, playing. But now, Karen, you're not here as a sort of formal chamber musician, although you must play an instrument.
I'm a pianist.
You're a
by
pianist,
trade,
right?
yeah.
But you'll be leading the festival concert orchestra,
That's right.
who are traditionally some of the less experienced musicians, student musicians at this festival. How are you feeling about that? Have you met them yet? You probably haven't had a first rehearsal yet.
No, I haven't met anybody. I've probably bumped into them in the auditorium walking in and out for other rehearsals, but I've seen some of the audition videos, which was great. I'm, of course, really looking forward to it. I think there's something really special about nurturing a group of young people who simply come with an open heart and they just want to play music and they want to get better. We can work with that kind of student 100 hours, it's absolutely no problem. 1,000 hours, no problem. It's such a wonderful exchange. So I look forward to meeting them tomorrow. I think it's 9 a.m. is the
Yes.
downbeat of the first rehearsal, so we'll see how it goes.
And do you have a particular sort of strategy, for want of a better word, in mind already about how you're going to tackle that orchestra, how you're sort of going to respond to what you hear and sort of adapt your approach accordingly, or are there very specific things you're hoping to share with or get across to these young students over the coming days?
I think with a festival situation where it can be very intense, and there will be some players who are maybe here for the first time, some as I'm here for the first time, a lot of times people think that we bring musicians into a festival experience to make them better musicians. And that's just a small part of it. What I feel that I really aspire to do, especially with younger musicians, or you're just a friend, to have somebody that is there present with you, who's brave enough to listen to you, will actually listen to you, and has the spirit to interact. So that's what I hope to send them away with. They'll play phenomenal music, and they will grow so much musically. But what we really want them to take away is the temperament of gaining more experience, being sort of a more mature, more connected human being. And there's no better way to do that than coming into a huge musical situation and sitting next to somebody you don't know and having to work together to make music.
And then there's that ripple out effect, one hopes. So when they
Absolutely.
go back to their communities or build their own careers, then they're able to propagate those things and
100%.
pass them on. When you say make them brave,
Yeah.
what do you mean by that?
Well, I think we've educated our young people into a position of fear very often, especially in school. They're afraid
Gotta
of
play
making
the right notes, gotta get a certain
playing the
mark
right
on
notes,
the
giving the
exam.
right answer. And what we can tell them is, when you get out into real life, there's a plethora of answers in front of you, and you may not make the right decision, but you have to look at your options. You have to decide what you want to do. You have to see how it might affect yourself or your system of colleagues or your system of your family. And then you make the decision and you take ownership of that and you move forward with that. It's very much what chamber music is,
Yes.
when you're talking and collaborating across. And I think if anything that they take away is the bravery to, in the space that I curate for them, they can make the mistakes. So make them here, become brave enough to not always get it right, because there's nothing worse than trying to navigate your life from a position of fear. And so if you have supportive people around you, or we build this sense of community, which we can do here at the festival, these young players can come in and they get better musically, but they also become a more assertive version of themselves, a more confident version of themselves. And that's really what we're looking to do, especially in a festival format.
So take risks and experiment.
Yes, but we want them to be wise, right? So we don't sit them down, for instance, with the Glass Four Seasons and say, take risks, go wild. If we offer them that, the sense might be that we allow them to do whatever they want, disregarding how it affects the unit in which they're in.
Yep.
And of course, that's the great exchange about chamber music, is bringing the best of yourself, the finest of yourself in the exchange. And I think across the board, whether it's music or, to be honest, sport can teach quite a lot of the same thing in terms of collaboration, love of your team, self-assessment, making yourself get better, but also understanding how your choices on the field affect the whole system of what's going on. I think we've had will achieve great success with them, whether it's sport or music. I happen to love doing it with music.
Yes. So we see you on the stage, apart from a little bit late today, on Saturday evening, I think it is.
You tell me, I'm not really sure.
But what do you have lined up? I think there's some Tchaikovsky.
Yes, so we're playing the opening scene of Swan Lake, which is a wonderful sort of tune-filled 3.5, 4 minutes. It's the famous tune. Tee ta da 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 teem ta dum ta dum. I think many of you probably know that. And then we'll do a Brook Violin Concerto with a wonderful soloist here, and who's also a faculty member. And then we're doing Carmen, a suite, which is sort of, there's a suite number 1 and a suite number 2. And what we've done is we've taken a few parts of each suite and we've put them together to be one full piece.
We've actually recently had a production that Cape Town Opera has put on of Carmen just last month or the month before now, I think in May, and so perhaps it's still swirling around in the consciousness of those who may have seen that production. Karen, just a little more on you and your own development. May I ask how you came to conducting? So you started perhaps as a pianist, and then at some point conducting grabbed you and lured you away.
Yes, well, I started music at a very young age. I was 3.5, 4 when I started in the Suzuki method of piano. And I played all the way through high school, but I was very much an athlete. And so I stopped playing because I was really committed to my athleticism. And then when I got into college, I actually applied everywhere. It's not going to be a secret anymore, but I was accepted everywhere as a mechanical engineer. Because I wanted to pursue possibly a master's in architecture to go into historical restoration. I really love old buildings. But I got to a point in my senior year, after committing to a school for engineering, that I thought, you know, if I don't give conducting a try, and I had done small bits of composing already, and I had done small bits of ensemble work, but I really knew in myself, and it might have been my athletic training actually that told me, if you don't try this, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life, and you're not going to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say you gave it your best shot. And so I changed on the registration day of my freshman year back into music. I took the audition day on that day. I don't recommend that, but it can be done. And I just really started pushing myself. So I did an undergraduate degree at a liberal arts school in piano. And then I went to a state university for a master's in conducting, and then Peabody Conservatory. So I have sort of a liberal education, and then a university, and then a conservatory at the U.S.
And do you think that's equipped you well? That's given you a very kind of unique
it gives me a broad
perspective and take on things.
Exactly, a broad perspective. And then I wanted to really challenge myself against a European backdrop, so I applied and was accepted to the Royal Academy of Music in London. And that's a 3-year finishing program, I would say. It's postgraduate work. And after that, I thought, that's enough training for now. And so that was sort of my trajectory. And once I got into London, I just started working naturally, and I stayed there, and I'm just now back to the US and happy to be there.
Are you able to say what it was specifically about conducting that drew you to it?
The sound.
The sound.
The sound.
What, sort of being able to bask in it and mold it and shape it? Or?
No, it wasn't that actually. As a pianist, I am at the mercy of the instrument.
Indeed.
I have no breath in order to crescendo. I can make a crescendo if I keep playing.
But there are enormous limitations compared to other families of instruments.
You have, some pianists will say you have multiple colors with the piano. You do, but you don't have the colors that you achieve in the orchestra.
Yes.
So for me, it was really about the spectrum of what the orchestra can share in terms of story, in terms of repertoire, in terms of timbre, color, texture, all of these things. And I just thought, I do love the piano, but that's amazing.
Yes.
So let's do that for a while and see how it goes.
And do you have particular preferences or styles that you most enjoy conducting? If you were able to conduct with
not really.
your orchestra tomorrow morning, anything.
I hate to let this question down, because I do get asked it a lot, but I mean, a very common answer, conductors will say, well, my favorite piece of music is the piece of music I'm currently working on, right?
Yes, you've heard
but
that.
I think in general, I really do love the romantic repertoire, and I'm impressed by Mahler, just his sort of size and scope, but I really love the lyricism of Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky for sure, and I love the humor that Mozart finds in his symphonies. So it's really hard to say.
But isn't that the magic
just
of it? Is
one or
the
other. Of
variety
course,
and the breadth of
absolutely.
it all, and being able to mix and match
Correct,
and be
absolutely.
contrasted. Well, Karen, thank you very much for making the time
Happy to be
talk
here.
to us this
Yeah.
evening. It's great to welcome you to Stellenbosch, and all the best for the coming week
Thank
and
you.
working with the students.
Thank you.
And welcome to our family
I'm
here.
thrilled to be here.
So-
Very thrilled to be here. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
In a few moments, we're going to return inside the Endler Hall for the second half of tonight's concert, and that features RAVEL, La Valse, and then DUKAS' much-loved Sorcerer's Apprentice, that will be jointly led by Karen. And to properly get you into the mood for that, let's revisit one final memorable moment from the opening concert of last year's SICMF, so also by RAVEL, his Bolero. And that was the culmination of that concert, and it was conducted last year by Mike Repper with another special guest appearance from the singers we saw just a few minutes ago, the Figure of Eight Dance Theatre. And welcome back. We're inside the Endler Hall once again for the second half now of this first faculty concert here at the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. And why not let us know where you're listening from? Is this your first time joining us for an SICMF live stream? Do you watch all? Are you a friend of this festival or a newcomer? Where are you listening from? Let us know. We'd love to hear. As we know, music is such a collaborative and friendly kind of process and interaction. The more we know about you and where you're listening from, the more we can then better appreciate what we're doing here and how that resonates out into the world. So much of that internationalism is reflected in tonight's music. We started off in America, if you like, with music by Philip Glass, and of course our very cosmopolitan faculty members here coming from all over the world. But we now move to France for the music of Maurice Ravel. As you may know, he was captivated by dance forms. He wrote many numerous musical interpretations and so on, of which the bolero that we've just heard is probably the most famous example. But the waltz did not escape his attention either. And so this work of his, La Valse, we're going to hear in a string nonet version with really a star-studded cast of our faculty artists this evening, and very much looking forward to hearing and seeing what they present for us shortly. And then in the second half of this evening's program, we hear a slightly larger ensemble, the Sorcerer's Apprentice by DUKAS. And as you may know, that was famously used in the Disney film Fantasia, Mickey Mouse enchanting a broomstick, and a calamitous sequence of events follows. But for now, it's back to early 20th century France for the music of Maurice Ravel, La Valse, arranged and imagined here for string nonet and led by Micklin Laipang, and it's his very first time here at the SICMF, and he's recently been in Cape Town, Franschhoek, so very happy to welcome him to this festival.
when else would you have the opportunity to hear that kind of work, or at least a string nonet, if not here at the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. This is the 21st edition of the festival, coming to you live from the Endler Hall in Stellenbosch. Valse by Maurice RAVEL, originally a piano piece, then orchestrated and then rearranged here for this combination of strings fantastic instrumentalists. Micklin Laipang making his SICMF debut, playing with Miriam Helms, Suzanne Martens, Farida Bakharova, our well-known guest concertmasters for the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestras on second violin. Kind of strange to see them, or violin 3 and 4 in that particular arrangement, and not at the helm. And then Dana Zemtsov, Zandi van Dijk, very nice to welcome them back to the festival on violas. David Cohen, Peter Martens, cello, and Zoran Markovic there leaving the stage, putting his double bass to one side, because I think we're going to be seeing him very soon for the next work. So yes, kind of a strange piece that. What is it really trying to do? Celebrate the dance form of the waltz? Surely it was intended as a tribute to Johann Strauss II, but perhaps some aspects of parody there. The grandeur of the Viennese court ball embodied in some ways, but also it seems with maybe a bit of a sarcastic sneer as well. Anyway, Ravel so good at what he does, and there that arrangement for string Nonet of La Valse. And so now to the finale of this evening's concert. This may be the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival, but that doesn't mean that we shy away from larger works. And so you can see the conductor's podium being moved into place. Double conductors for this next work, as you may have surmised from my interview with Karen Hendrickson a little bit earlier. And of course, Henny and the team of logistics people here constantly making sure that the stage is set and reset and in its optimal arrangements before, during, and after these concerts. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, an orchestral showpiece by Paul DUKAS, a piece we don't get to hear too often, although we did, in fact, hear the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra play it in the Cape Town City Hall last year. But this composition is from 1897, so 130 years ago or so, and it's an example of what we call program music or programmatic music. So it's music that's trying to tell a story, kind of like Ravel's La Valse that we've just heard, a piece of music that's trying to do something extra musical, in that respect, kind of a tribute to the dance form of the waltz. But in this case, it's based on a poem by Goethe, the great German writer, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. And you're probably familiar with its depiction in Disney's 1940 animated classic Fantasia, which featured Mickey Mouse as that Sorcerer's Apprentice. And the basic premise is that a magician's overconfident apprentice has grown tired of all the menial chores that he's expected to do. And so he enchants a broom to do his bidding. And one of those chores is to fetch pails of water. But then only when the floor is flooding does the apprentice, Mickey Mouse, realize that he doesn't have the spell casting skills to stop the broom. And so in a panic, he splits the broom with an axe, only for both halves to come to life and then double the flood water, and it takes the return of the master sorcerer to break the spell. And so a large ensemble on stage this evening. This is a very colorful work, and it'll be good to hear. You can see the percussion department are already installing themselves in the back corner of the stage there. And that's part of the magic of this festival, isn't it? Is just the vast range of forces and scales that we're exposed to over the week. Strings and synthesizer a bit earlier, but now they're going to be joined by winds and brass and percussion. And then tomorrow and over the subsequent days, it's back down to more conventional forces. We have 2 piano quintets tomorrow, for example. And then Concert 7 on Thursday is always quite a showy affair, a chance for our faculty artists to display their virtuosity. Often a series of smaller concerto-type works are played. And then, of course, the large student orchestras on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the Festival Symphony Orchestra on Friday and Sunday, the Festival Concert Orchestra that Maestra Karen Hendrickson will be conducting on Saturday. But yes, this is going to be interesting. You may remember Ravel's Bolero, last year at this time, also ending the first faculty concert, that's of last year's SICMF, this joint conducting endeavor by Mike Repper and Anthony Hermus. And tonight it's Mike Repper and Karen Hendrickson. So we'll see how they stay in sync and how they get everyone else to stay in sync. It sounds like the musician's nightmare, really, having two conductors. Javon Gilliam on percussion there, the timps, back left-hand corner. Very nice to welcome him back, another friend of this festival. He's been here for many, many years. Nice to see lots of our principals from the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra. Roxana Stefan, principal double bassist, just left the stage. Peter Martens, principal cellist of the Cape Town Philharmonic Orchestra, also festival director of this festival, as you know. And him and our artistic director, whom we hold in such awe and admiration, Nina Schumann, putting together this fantastic, imaginative, exquisite program of old and new and big and small and all sorts of exciting sound pictures conjured up in front of us. You'll remember my interview a little bit earlier with Karen, and that she was saying, as a pianist, the big attraction of the orchestra was all the sounds and the colors that kind of made the piano seem almost a bit limiting. And we get to hear that full range of instrumental colors over the course of these 10 days of chamber music magic at the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Nice to see a harp on stage as well. Ricardo Hinneke playing that. You will remember his appearances last year as part of the Mahler Fifth Symphony, that famous Adagietto. Indeed, the clip we watched a little bit earlier of Max Richter's Four Seasons Recomposed, he was playing the harp in that too. One of the great success stories, if you like, of this festival. A student moving up in the ranks, eventually performing on the stage with these great musicians as part of these faculty concerts. And so our large ensemble for the Sorcerer's Apprentice now assembling on stage. Some of the strings, some winds, our horns. I see someone like Nathan Haysalmon, our librarian here at the SICMF, and taking on so many of the logistical duties of this festival. Good to see him playing in the concerts as well. And of course, he's playing with Yao Guang Chai next to him, our faculty clarinetist. Valse Segale playing on her bassoon that she received at this festival concert this time last year. Can you believe it's been a full year? It was remarkable how that all played out. The surprise as one of the SICMF's 20-year celebrations. Maestro Mike Repper had brought that bassoon for Offense back with him here to South Africa, and it was presented at this concert last year. Gosh, and look at Maya Bogdanovic sitting next to Peter in the cello section there. That dress is incredible, sparkling. Nice to see Suzanne Martens also wearing the festival purple. I hope you noticed my bow tie a little bit earlier. It's kind of tradition for this first faculty concert, the opening ceremony of this festival that takes place just before this first faculty concert, so that all the participants are encouraged to wear some purple, some of this SICMF regal color. Blow out the candles. Dana Zemsov, one of our faculty violists, her birthday today. Glad we could mark and celebrate that. What a great way to be celebrating your birthday. Beautiful music, musical friends and colleagues as part of this festival. Daniel Rowland, concertmaster of this particular configuration of musicians this evening. This large ensemble on the stage of the Endler Hall, coming to you live from Stellenbosch, South Africa. Gosh, really a family affair between Daniel and Maya and Peter and Suzanne and many other very close musical partners, colleagues, family. And what a metamorphosis, a different attire she's wearing. Maestra Karen Hendrickson, from when I saw her a little bit earlier, making her SICMF debut this evening. Welcome to the podium. And here's Mike Repper. Two conductors in a concert hall. Sounds like the start of a corny joke. Yes, let's rock, paper, scissors it out. And here we go, The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul DUKAS, coming to you live as the culmination of this first faculty concert in the 2026 SICMF, coming to you live. And we already have some dancers on stage. Enjoy. And a standing ovation coming to you live from the Endler Hall in Stellenbosch. Double conductors' duties there. Karen Hendrickson and Mike Repper conducting this large ensemble of Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival faculty and students. The Sorcerer's Apprentice, one of the most vivid orchestral works by Paul DUKAS. And of course, the dancers. Figure of Eight Dance Theatre, fantastic to welcome them back to the stage for the second time this evening, for the second year running, here at the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. And what a way to start off this year's festival, taking us through contemporary American music, a violin concerto, as started off this evening, a smaller work kind of embodying French Impressionism, if you like, and now this orchestral showpiece, but in this kind of slightly different guise where we have chamber musicians playing in an orchestral context. What a treat, and conducted by two very prestigious faculty conductors. Very nice to see Daniel Rowland, who performed that glass violin concerto, then leading the orchestra this evening, and so many other familiar faces and musicians. Aren't we very, very privileged here? Hard to believe that already the first faculty concert has come to a close. Well, I'm going to head out into the foyer where the rest of the audience are congregating and will no doubt be enjoying a glass of wine to bid you good night. So I'll see you in 2 minutes.
And so, the Garden of Seeds became a garden of endless renewal, a place where the past was not forgotten, but transformed, a place where the light belonged to all, and where every seed could realize their potential to reach for the sky.
what a spectacular way to launch the 2026 Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. Tonight we travelled from the mesmerising sound world of Philip Glass through the intoxicating whirl of RAVEL's Valse to the vivid musical storytelling of the Sorcerer's Apprentice by DUKAS. And I hope you'll agree tonight's really a program that encapsulates what makes this festival so special, the dialogue between tradition and innovation, between familiar masterpieces and new discoveries, and with special embodiment of the music expressed by figure-of-eight dance theatre. And the chamber music magic continues tomorrow. Saturday's faculty concert here in Stellenbosch begins with Mozart's Quintet for Piano and Winds, a work that he himself regarded as perhaps the finest work he'd written up to that point. And we then move to another South African premiere, Space Jump, by the Turkish composer and pianist Fazıl Say. And after the interval, one of the great emotional landmarks of the Romantic chamber music repertoire, another piano quintet, this time by César Franck. During the day, of course, there'll be the student concerts, visiting ensembles, and many opportunities to experience the extraordinary educational side of this festival. So please visit our website, SICMF.co.za, for more on those events. Thank you for joining us for this opening night of the 2026 SICMF. Until tomorrow evening, on behalf of the entire production team here at the Endler Hall, this is John Woodland wishing you good night.